Welcome to SYDTV, Sydney Russell's very own monthly TV channel, covering all that is great about our school. If it's happening at Sydney Russell, we want to know about it. Our first feature is called Sydney Pride, which is something that we can all take pride in. In this issue, we discover that there's something about Mary.
School started sponsoring Mary back in 2012. A friend of mine has a charity called Start Small, and she was looking for donations for children in orphanages, and she wanted teddy bears and soft toys and things that could be packed really tight and be shipped over at a cheap cost for children in Nakuru in Kenya. And I love doing charity work, and straight away I knew it was something I could get involved in. At the time, I had an 8AS group under Mr. Isaacs, who was head of year at the time, and I asked him if he'd like to get involved in this charity, and he was really enthusiastic about it. So I sent out PowerPoints, I sent out emails, and asked people to donate bears and soft toys and things. And I grew from a small pile of 5 bears in the middle of my room to a sea of bears to be sent out to Nakuru. From there, I started looking at sponsorship. And started talking to Cindy about the fact that she sponsors children. She encourages people to sponsor children that live in the slums, that have no future, that have no meals, they have no clothes. And she said she had a little girl in mind for me by the name of Mary. And from there I spoke to Karen Sayers and said to her, we have all these non-uniform days and things at school. What happens to the money? Where does it go? And she said, we've been sponsoring children. I said, I've got a child that I'd really like to sponsor. And she said she'd look into it because one of our old sponsor children had turned 18, we weren't funding them anymore. She asked how much it was, £300 a year. And I explained to her that bought 2 sets of uniform, 2 meals a day. It paid for pens, pencils, school equipment. On top of that, there's also a medical fund, so that if Mary has an accident or anything like that, she's medically covered. Miss Sayers went to Mr. Layton and spoke to people, and she come back to me about 2 weeks later and said, yes, we could sponsor a child. So I emailed Cindy, who'd now moved out. She felt that passionate about her charity that she moved out to Kenya and now lives in Kenya, Nakuru, and told her that we would be able to sponsor Mary. She sent me the photos through, and for the last 3.5 years we've been sponsoring Mary. I think it's really important. We are, even though we don't realise it, we're quite privileged. We don't pay to come to school. We pay for our uniform that lasts us 2, 3, 4 years. We've never had to pay for an exercise book, a textbook. Every single child, in my opinion, is equal and deserves the right to have an education, to be free, to not live in fear. If we don't sponsor and help these children, their future is very sadly prostitution and drugs. And if we can save one child, then we're potentially saving a family as well. Because we sponsor Mary, Mary will then go on to educate her children, and it'll be a rolling. It'll be a snowball effect. It'll carry on from there. So I think it's really important. I think it's important for our children to be involved in this because they need to know about the outside world. We can't keep people wrapped up in cotton wool. They need to know there are less people fortunate. And if out of their money they can put £1 in for a non-uniform day, towards a non-uniform day, that's giving someone 3 meals. £300 a year is nothing to what we cost our families, etc, etc. So I think it's important. It's important that we look after each other.
The Spotlight feature allows us to shine a light on an after-school activity. This month we went to see Mr. Sullivan, who was playing an interesting game on 2 wheels.
It's 3, 2, 1, polo!
The Big Issue brings together a panel of school experts discussing the big issue in the news this term. On this occasion, it was the announcement that America's new president would be Donald Trump. Economics teacher Mr. Neenan and his student Daniel were joined by politics teacher Mr. Sullivan and his student Dennis to discuss the impact of this news with myself as the host.
Mr. Neenan and Daniel, would you be able to explain how this is going to affect us economically in 10 seconds?
Well, I think if he does have a trade war with China and he does put tariffs, which are basically taxes on Chinese goods coming into America, like he's saying this is going to protect American workers, but it actually would end up having the effect of driving up the prices of the cheap products that they all get. So it could actually mean that they end up having less money in their pockets. So it's unlikely the jobs will come back, but the cost of living could actually go up.
Daniel?
With me, it's the idea that with his policies on immigration, what it will cause, with this idea of getting rid of a lot of undocumented or people that aren't registered within the country, a lot of lower paid jobs are going to lose a lot of their labourers, and that's going to affect the economy as a whole. That's what America is somewhat built on. It's a foundation of many economies.
And Mr. Sullivan and Dennis, could you please sum it up in 10 seconds each?
American leadership of the free world or the developed world is now open to question because the USA may become more withdrawn or isolated. Scary times.
Well, as a person of colour myself, I'm worried how fascism and fascism, more right-wing politics are rising in Europe, and it might affect my education in Europe as well as going through.
I would like to thank our panelists for joining in our discussion, and hopefully you can join us next time.
The 1-minute interview puts the member of staff on the spot for 60 seconds as we get to know them through 10 quick-fire questions.
Okay, miss, you've got 1 minute to answer 10 questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
And start the clock. Tell us your name and job title.
Miss Darwin, Enrichment Programme Coordinator.
What exactly do you do in the school?
I do all the extracurricular activities and the house cut.
How long have you been with us?
2 months.
What is your favourite colour?
Red.
Do you have a pet, and if so, what's it called?
Yes, a cat. He's called Smithers.
What is your favourite smell?
Sticky toffee pudding.
Make an emoji face at the camera. What is Snapchat?
It's a social media platform.
How many Instagram followers do you have?
None, don't have it.
What do you love about Sydney Russell School the most?
Students and the staff.
And stop the clock. Well done, miss. You have finished it with 22 seconds.
Fantastic.
Hey.
Finally, we have the house update. A roundup of all the exciting house events, including footage, one so big even a local newspaper covered it.
Welcome guys to our first ever bike-a-thon, when students from our 5 houses try to cycle the distance from Sydney Russell to Glastonbury. That's a total of 134 miles on exercise bikes kindly lent to us by Better Gyms from Barking. We're not sure they'll make it all the way there, but the house that gets the closest to Glastonbury wins 100 points. Now, let's see how they get on.
It's all about fitness, promoting fitness throughout all the years, even for kids that didn't have the opportunity after school clubs, etc. So I think we're covering a wide area.
How are you feeling right now?
Five, yeah. It should be 5 now. We're going to 5. Yeah.
Congratulations, that's great.
I think it's been really good. I mean, all the kids just singing, dancing, cycling, fantastic.
So that's it, folks. That brings us to the end of the pilot edition of SYDTV.
We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to bringing you more exciting Sydney Russell news soon.
In the meanwhile, if you think there's something interesting happening that belongs on SYDTV, let us know.
Staff can use the quick and easy press form, and students can email us directly using the address on the screen.
Thanks again.
See you soon.